Hello, friends. I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? Hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. How was the holidays? How was everything? Excellent. I hope so. Guess what I haven't done? I haven't put together my push stick, and I also haven't used the tools all weekend because I've been busy. I've been family stuff and dog stuff and all the normal stuff. But I know you saw me carry it in. We're going to talk about it. What I've really been doing in my head the entire time. Actually, for the past probably 2 weeks, this has been firmly implanted in my head. I have been stuck on this. This is going to be, or this is becoming, version, I'm calling it V2 of Rival Rails. Even though it's probably more like V30. There's so many iterations of that game at this point. It's really a discredit to call this V2, but I'm calling this V2 because this is a major version change. This is a very big departure from all of the development that I've done over the last year and a half, or almost, well, no, it's been a year and a half, of the main Rival Rails game. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's tons of videos. I don't think I put them in a playlist. There's a lot. I probably won't put anything in the video description. You're probably just going to have to search on my channel. There are lots of videos of me talking about this game. It is a train game that I have been working on for a year and a half. That is a cube rail style game. It's a board game. Cube rail style games typically mean that you're building routes on a map with cubes, or you're building routes on a map with trains and you're transporting cubes. There's a bunch of different variations of it, but they all have some sort of stock market involved. They all have some sort of cash flow involved. And they all are really multiplayer games. I wanted to create a two-player only version of one of these games. I wanted it to be strictly two-player because playing a two-player version of a Cube Rails, my favorites are things like Chicago Express, Railways of the World. Well, that's it. Those are my two favorite. They're okay. Steam. They're okay as two-player games, but they're not great. And the reason is, stock market manipulation is a zero-sum game when there's only two parties involved. If I take a stock and I get money, that just means that's something that you didn't get. And it's just, at the end of the day, it's just the biggest difference. You just take the two values and whoever, and that's not really that exciting. There's not a lot of room to explore there. And by that, I mean, if we're playing a stock market game, let's say in Rival Rails there's 4 stocks. If you take a purple stock and I take a purple stock, nobody's position has changed. That's it. And if we just do that for the whole game, you take a blue, I take a blue. You take a green, I take a green. It's just like a dead game. Like, why are we even playing this? Now, you could argue that if you're playing a game like that with a player like that, that player you shouldn't play games with that person. But it's also a kind of a flaw in the game. It just means that what really matters is the difference, and that's not really that exciting. So I really wanted to try very hard to capture that style of game, but for 2. And my design requirements were that I wanted stocks, I wanted trains on a map, I wanted two players. I think I probably have my design requirements written down somewhere. I'm not positive. I think I hit that. Oh, I wanted dividends. So train games typically are played over a series of, not necessarily rounds, but they might literally be rounds, and at the end of a round there is dividends, or they might just be turns, and then certain events trigger dividends. And dividends are just paying out stocks. So I have 5 stocks, you have 4, you have 3, I get this much money, you get this much money, you get this much money. In a 2-player game, again, if we have just stocks, I have 5, you have 4, that means I have the majority, I get the bigger number, you get the smaller number. What's the point? The only point there is that I get the difference. If I get 20 bucks, or if I get 30 bucks and you get 20, the real change was I got $10. Like, so just don't do all of that. But I wanted dividends. I wanted that feeling. That's exciting to me. I really enjoy the getting paid for my play, right? So stocks, trains on a map, dividends. I think those were my 3 design goals. I hit it with Rival Rails. I really did. There are stocks, but they don't pay out the way you expect them to. There are dividends that happen. There's 3 rounds in the game. There's a dividends at the end of each round. At the end of the game, whoever has the most money wins. There are things for you to spend your money on. So there are ways to lose money so that your cash flow is a little bit uncertain. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting decision space. And money is hidden, so it's kind of a little bit difficult to figure out who wins until the final moment. But the big version is just kind of clunky and weird. There's a clunky counting mechanism that you have to keep track of for rounds and for payouts, and then there's this market thing that pays out during dividends, but you kind of, it's really only the last person's turn that matters because they have the biggest influence over the market at that point in time. There's a lot of weird clunkiness that was still just, it wasn't quite right. The game is good. My friends enjoy playing it. Em enjoys playing it. I wasn't happy. So I've been working on version 2. And this all came about because I was playing with my friend Jeff, and one of his suggestions was, have you thought about just discarding the round structure completely? Like, that's the big hang-up with the original version, was keeping track of the rounds somehow, only getting paid out at the end of a round, which meant that if you make a big play, I just get screwed. And I went, man, I really like that idea. So what I have done over the past 2 weeks in my head, over the holiday break, constantly thinking about it, was work on the game. And I have come up with this trimmed down version. So the map is much smaller. It's about the third, it's a little bigger than a third, but it's about a third of the size of the original map, meaning a third of the spaces. Because in the original game, you could play 3, 4, or 5 locomotives on your turn. In this one, you can play 1, 2, or 3. So the map is shrunk to accommodate for that, which is another reason that I wanted to design this new version, was to reduce manufacturing costs. If I can get this to like a $50 game on the Game Crafter, like if it's something that you can go buy, I'll publish it. I will make it readily available to you on the Game Crafter if I can get that price point down. Right now, with all of the stuff involved, it comes out to be $84, and I just can't see myself charging that. But if I can shrink that production cost to this tiny little, $50, I would put it on the Game Crafter for you to buy. And then try to find a publisher. So what I've done is I've shrunk the map. It still has the same number of cities. It still has the same number of train companies, similar structure. This map is loosely, now that it's shrunk, extremely loosely based on West Virginia, but it's kind of there. And so now you're playing much less stuff on your turn. There's more open areas. There's more options on your turn. And I have reduced the game down to this market. And this market is something that I had a conversation with somebody else who I said, that market is the game. Like, that's the game. The rest of the stuff is just trying to manipulate that market. And he said, well, why don't you abstract the rest away if the market is the fun part? And that's kind of what I've done. I still want the trains. The routes still matter, and they drive the market. And you have to be able to read the board because everything is put out at random. So understanding the positioning of this company and these commodities means that the market manipulation is, the board is an important tool that you get to use to try to manipulate the market. But your opponent's doing the same thing. I have shrunk all that down. There's no more rounds. There's just turns. Markets pay out when they pay out. Like every time that you move the market, it pays out. I've shrunk the number of contracts. So I had this concept of I wanted shares to matter. As soon as I got rid of dividends, the shares didn't matter anymore. Just having shares meant nothing. I came up with a couple of ways to make them matter. One is the way that they manipulate the market. That's still in the game. It's fun. The other one was, at the end of a round, you got contracts, special powers based on the majorities that you owned. And that's interesting, but it's also, it didn't, I used it as a device as opposed to a tool. So now I've shrunk. It was 9 cards. It's now just 5. There's 1 for each company. And whenever somebody gains a majority, they gain that thing. There's no more checking at the end of a round. You get it. It's yours. And it can't be taken back from you on the following turn. It's going to take at least a couple of turns for somebody to steal it from you. So I'm enjoying the heck out of this. I really am. I'm this close to... I haven't actually tested it yet. This is all just theory. I need to make the cards, and I was going to order them from the Game Crafter before the holidays, but then the storm thing, I wanted to just... I didn't get it done. Because shopping and, whatever. So I might just print these off and cut them. I really don't enjoy doing that, but I think for this particular version, I'll just do that. The whole thing will be pretty easily testable, and I believe I'm going to settle on it pretty quickly. Like, I think that if this works at all, the step from version 2 to version, finished 2F, to release candidate 2 will be just a couple of steps. Like, if this works at all, there's just a few numbers to tweak and we're done. That's exciting. Because it took me 1.5 years to get to this point. I'm excited about this. I really, really am. I hope I can make it work. So, what'd you do this weekend? Did you have a good holiday? I did. In my head. Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is panacea. It is a noun meaning a universal solution for all problems, diseases, or woes. Parents today see buying their kids everything they want as a panacea for misery, boredom, and unhappiness. Panacea. P-A-N-A-C-E-A. Yeah. Some of the RPGs I play use panacea as a cure-all potion, right? I think that's a pretty common word now. At least for gamers.